morning. Welcome to the e-Discovery Zone Special Edition, live from the TechLaw Solutions booth on the first day of Legal Tech New York, which will explain why we look so chipper. The show has just started. We haven't really talked to a lot of people yet, and Browning and I are at our finest. I'm Tom O'Connor, of course, from the Gulf Coast Legal Technology Center in New Orleans, Louisiana. And my cohort in crime, as always, is Browning Marean of DLA Piper.
Yes.
Good morning, Browning.
Well, a great pleasure to be here, and particularly we've got David Cohen from the Reed Smith firm out of their Pittsburgh office joining us. And David, a great pleasure to have you with us.
Nice to be here, Browning.
We spend a lot of time in the e-discovery world. We've known each other now over the years. It appears that one of the hot topics this year is predictive coding. Predictive coding, curse, blessing, where are we going with it?
Well, I think it is ultimately will be a blessing. Predictive coding is another way of saving money for clients in what has become one of the most expensive phases of litigation, as you know. And so I think the real question is, how far along is it? Are we ready yet to dismiss all of the human lawyers and just turn it over to the computers? And I think we're not there yet. We may never be completely there, because even when you have computer-assisted coding, you still need to feed it with human judgments. But I think what we are seeing is a move towards improvements in software which allow humans to move faster through documents, maybe not set eyes on every document with sufficient sampling and QC protections. And another piece of it, I think, is that it elevates the need for more talented reviewers to use this more sophisticated software. So we're seeing a little bit of a move away from just the temp lawyer to do all the review and more towards specialists who become expert in using this kind of software and can really leverage the technology for maximum advantage.
I wonder if some years ago, Tom, coding shops would, we would do offshore coding and simple bibliographic coding and the like, and those industries appear to have waned considerably with computers able to get that bibliographic data. And what I wonder is if contract attorneys are going to go the way of coding shops with predictive coding. And if so, what do you think the half-life of contract attorneys are going to be?
Well, I'm curious. You're the first attorney I've heard who actually spoke in even a semi-positive way about predictive coding, because I think the assumption has still been attorneys need to look at paper. And so in that sense, I think those shops, although they've diminished somewhat offshore, I think, at least in my experience, domestic review with contract attorneys has ticked up. Are you getting any sense that that's going to happen, that predictive coding will cut back on that?
I think that along with predictive coding, we're also seeing continued increases in the volume of information that people have to deal with. So that somewhat offsets that.
Yeah.
But I do think that ultimately, as time goes on, we're able to do more with less. An attorney who is very familiar with the software, the way the software is being set up, if you have the right workflows, you can get through more documents more quickly. And we're not laying eyes on every document necessarily anymore.
Right.
There's filters that you can run to try and identify the privileged and the hot documents, and there's sampling you can do of the documents you don't review. There's always risks, so a lot of it comes to the cost-benefit analysis. How much money are you saving? What is the client's risk tolerance? And some clients are instructing us, this set of documents over here, they're not really important. I don't expect to find anything in there that's critical. We'll just run them through an automated privilege filter, do some sampling, and turn them over without review. And that can save a lot of money with high volumes of documents. So I don't see contract attorneys going away anytime soon. I do see more of a premium towards going beyond the base level contract attorney to the attorney who's experienced with e-discovery, still a lower cost attorney, but somebody who's experienced with e-discovery and becomes a pro. with the software. Exactly. Yeah.
You mentioned the clients, though, and back in the old days of coding shops and the early days of programs like summation and concordance, our experience was always the client sort of gave us the documents and said, do your magic and come back and we'll talk. I'm sensing, though, that you're getting more interaction with your clients, more discussion about what those options are and how to go about this.
Yeah, and sometimes we're initiating that discussion, but we're also seeing with the movement in corporations to get these costs under control, we're seeing more and more in-house focus on these issues and how they can get control of their e-discovery costs and reduce the e-discovery costs. And I think that's a good thing. I think the companies that are doing that are saving money because there are lots of ways to save money. For example, one of the phenomena we're seeing is a move towards hiring special discovery counsel rather than, big corporation may have 20, 30, 100 law firms all over the country working on cases, and each law firm may be doing their own thing with regard to e-discovery, some better than others, some more expensively than others. And we're seeing more and more companies now hire national discovery counsel to basically help in all of the cases that involve a lot of e-discovery and come up with standard processes and get the costs under control. We're also seeing corporations taking more and more of this e-discovery work in-house, which is another way to save money if they have the volume of litigation to justify that. And sometimes it's a combination. They're doing more in-house, and then for the outside stuff, they have National E-Discovery Counsel to help manage it.
Interesting. Is that a role that your firm is taking on?
It is, yeah. We are, and it's different than, I've been practicing for 29 years now, and traditionally, when you did litigation, you handled the discovery, you handled everything else.
Right.
But for about the last 5 or 6 years now, I've been in a role of National Discovery Counsel, where in some cases I'm coming in just to help with the discovery issues, whether it be the document review or sometimes helping with motions practice and depositions and that type of thing.
Interesting.
So in cases where we're not primary trial counsel, so you're there to support the primary trial counsel, but make sure that the discovery piece gets handled as efficiently and cost effectively as possible.
Interesting.
I want to go back to I call it the John Henry versus the steam drill, and I wonder if you're having success in convincing people to use predictive coding. I sense a reluctance. I don't want to pick on people with gray hair since I've got the most here, but I do sense a reluctance to rely on technology. Are you making inroads in convincing folks to actually use it and give it a try?
We are seeing some companies increasingly receptivity to it, not just with clients, but one of the things clients will say is, well, is there a case which says we can do this? Until the judges get convinced, it's hard for clients to adopt it. But now we're seeing it where I'm from, the Western District of Pennsylvania, judges saying, yeah, this is good technology, you should use it. We're seeing the same thing here in New York, as you know, to some extent. So that will push it along. We don't push it. We say, hey, here's an option. Here are the challenges that you're going to face. If you get challenged on this, number one, if you're using it to make criticality decisions in terms of what you produce, the opposing side can challenge it. If you're just using it to look at stuff, to figure out what you need to look at before you produce it, the other side won't challenge it because they're seeing all the documents. But are you at risk yourself in missing some important documents or missing an important privilege call? So one of the things I always push when we're producing any documents that we haven't seen is a non-waiver and clawback order entered into with the other side. And that gives you some protection, but as you know, it's not perfect protection because you can claw something back, but that doesn't force the other side to forget what they've seen.
I sense, but I'd be interested in your view, that the real driver for predictive coding and increased uptick of it is the fact that it really can save you a huge amount of money. If you can cull out 80% of the documents before it goes in a review room using that tool, you've just saved a huge amount of money.
Well, I would say there's sort of three phases to it. The culling out before review is almost what some people have called the early case assessment piece of it, the filtering. And you don't even really need predictive coding software to do that. With traditional search software, if you use hit by term reports, if you do sampling, you can refine searches in a way that will better focus in on the key documents and eliminate the irrelevant documents. And that's been around for a while, and it's just a matter of focusing on that stage rather than being too ready to review everything that comes through your first set of hit terms. But when we get to predictive coding, I think we're talking more about two different things. One is when reviewers get the documents, having them presented in a way that documents that are more likely to be relevant are grouped together and maybe already have key terms highlighted so that the reviewers can get through those documents more quickly. When they see the document, there's already an indication the computer would classify this as relevant or irrelevant, privileged or non-privileged, and so it speeds them up. They still have to make a call, but the key terms are highlighted. It takes them to the right place in the document. So there's an aspect of speeding it up. But what's really being touted as the big cost savings is eventually not looking at the documents at all, even those documents that you're producing, not necessarily looking at every one of them for responsiveness and privilege in advance if you can trust the computer to make those decisions. Very few clients are yet there where in a high-stakes case they're going to trust that with most of their documents. But I see a movement in that direction.
David, you mentioned really the need for attorneys to know how to use the tools. It's not enough to have it, you've got to do it. Are you finding that in fact it's not the attorneys but it's the lit support folks that really have the skill sets working in conjunction with the attorneys or the vendor that really understands how to make that software sync?
They're a critical piece of it, and plenty of firms have made a big investment in software only to not take advantage of its capabilities because they don't know how to use it or the workflows are not set up to take advantage of it. So I think it's a marriage of the lit support people to get it tuned and singing, as you say, and the attorneys who then know how to make use of the software. And so that has some consequences. For example, traditionally we used a lot of different kinds of software and would change depending on the case. Well, now we're finding that focusing in and really becoming a pro at one piece of software might be the answer, and cutting down on how many different packages we're using and really focusing on one or two key packages, and then the reviewers and the lit support people become real experts at using it, and that can be a huge advantage.
We've only got about 3 minutes left, so we are at the start of Legal Tech. What do you hope to find here?
Yeah, what brings you here?
Yeah, well, it's always
us, of course.
It's always great to network with old friends. I mean, we used to call this automated litigation support, but Legal Tech goes back many, many years. So, part of it is just, seeing old friends. But it's always great to see the newest innovations, too. And I think that one of the things we're seeing is that a lot of the different pieces of the puzzle with e-discovery and e-discovery software, starting from the collection to the filtering to the early case assessment to the review to the production, there have been a lot of deduplication and email threading. All these different pieces have been separate pieces. And one of the evolutions that we're seeing in e-discovery is unified systems. Vendors doing a better and better job integrating the different pieces, which makes it harder for us lawyers to screw it all up.
Give us a chance.
Yeah.
Well, David, I want to thank you very much for your time, and as you say, it's great catching up with an old friend.
Yes, thanks for stopping by. We'll look forward to seeing all of you again later on today here at the TechLaw Solutions booth, Day 1, Legal Tech New York, from the e-discovery.